a three-time winner of the Laurence Olivier Awards for Best Actor in a Musical. A marvelous voice from South Pacific, Foyleys, Candide, and Les Miserables, to name but a few. The man behind these remarkable achievements is none other than the musical legendary star, Philip Quast.
His career just went through the stratosphere. He's an international star. It is one of the most beautiful voices you're ever going to hear.
He's had an illustrious career refining that craft.
On his third visit to Vietnam, he remains committed to inspiring young artists and nurturing the growth of Vietnamese musical theater.
Bác dạy rất là tận tình và bác chỉ từng chi tiết một là làm như thế nào để nó tốt hơn.
Bác Philip đã truyền cho mình rất nhiều kiến thức bổ ích và cũng đã truyền cho mình một cái nguồn động lực vô cùng to lớn để mình chuyển hướng sang hoạt động nghệ thuật một cách thực sự nghiêm túc.
I think there's a whole possibility here of doing musicals using Vietnamese instruments, Vietnamese language, Vietnamese stories with the skills of the Western musical. I hope to come back to Vietnam lots more.
Hello and welcome to Talk Vietnam, having a career spanning nearly 5 decades with 6,000 performances, 80 plays and 30 musicals. Philip Quast is the first actor to have won the Laurence Olivier Award for Best Actor in a Musical 3 times. From his humble beginnings to achieving international acclaim, he has faced numerous challenges and celebrated significant milestones. In our Talk Vietnam today, let's delve into Philip Quast's remarkable journey and explore the nuances of his artistic style as well as the skills that defined his performances. Hello, Philip, and welcome for the first time on Talk Vietnam.
Thank you very much, Lena. It's lovely to be here.
How are you?
I'm very, very well.
So, in my introduction, I talked about the number of performances that you have been doing during your 50 years of performing. So, I mean, 6,000 performances is such a, impressive number.
Well, what's weird is they sat down with a pen and paper and worked it all out and added it all up over the years.
Like you have a calendar and you know
No, you just look at your. I look at my CV and you forget. And I realised I'd done 250 performances of that play. I'd done 1,500 performances of Les Mis. I'd done 600 performances of that. And all of a sudden, you realise how many nights you worked, and of course, how many lines you had to learn for all that. Right. And how stressful it was, really, because it's quite stressful.
Yeah. So can you walk us through that? Because, singing or playing a play for thousands of times, I think is not easy. And how could you keep the energy or the emotion fresh to the audience?
Well, what keeps it fresh is a proper rehearsal period. It's really important you go through process. If you just learn a part and you don't actually create it and start from scratch, it can become boring to do. But if you've actually sat down and learnt it very, very slowly and made it your own, and tried to go through the process that the writer went through when they wrote it.
So you put yourself in the
Well, you just go back. I always start with language. I always start with the written word. So, for instance, if I'm doing a Shakespeare play, I will, because you've almost got to translate it first. You actually study the text. You look at the form. You work out. You will actually do your own translation. You will look up every single word so that I've got an image for it.
Right.
Because if I say something like, I will look up the history of a word. For instance, there's a word, I might have a word called last. In English, people don't think about what last means. But if I look up the word, its etymology means in Middle English means footprint.
Okay.
So if someone says, it will last forever, that means that I'm here, my footprint will be here forever.
Wow.
Or if you, it's a shoe last is the thing that you put the shoe on to make a shoe. I will look up that word so that when I say it at long last, it will have a meaning in my heart.
Right.
Does that make sense?
It makes sense, and the way you say it would be different.
Yes, the way you
because-
say it's different.
Yeah.
So, and that takes time. It takes a lot of lonely hours. It's a very lonely road. It's just not a matter of learning the lines. You've just got to invent them for yourself. And of course, if you put all that work in, that means when you're working at night on a show, it will be forever fresh because in a way you've written it.
Right. So did you have it when you first started your career, or you learned through time?
Well, I had a really unusual upbringing. I grew up on a farm, a turkey farm, although we had sheep and cattle, and it was a mixed farm. And I went to a one-teacher school. There was only 13 of us in a room about the size of this little area here.
Yeah.
I read a book, I think, for the first time when I was 13 or something.
Okay.
And because there was no time.
Yeah.
No television, really.
You mean there was no time because you were busy with the
because
farming?
busy working before school and after school and on weekends.
Okay.
And I didn't want to because I never learned how to play the piano or music because...
So you didn't come from a family with a background in performing?
And then I came to education later in life. And when I then went to... I left school and went to university. It was a country university. And then I discovered language, and I discovered poems and books. And so I went on a process of self-education, really.
But what major did you study in university?
Where I grew up was the Australian country music capital, Tamworth.
Okay.
And all the songs in country music are stories. So I liked anything that was a story. If you think of Dolly Parton singing Jolene or all those country and western songs that had a story, I liked anything with a story. And also there were all those Irish Australian songs, Click Go the Shears and Waltzing Matilda and all these incredible songs that had a story. And I was amazed how you could musically put those stories... As I said, I never learned how to do music. So I became fascinated with the actual stories themselves. And I think I was drawn to acting because it felt exactly like being on a farm. Because we all worked and came together at the end of the day and ate the food. And that's exactly what rehearsals feel like. You all come together and then... In the end, you put on the performance wasn't the good part.
Okay.
The actual work was the best part.
Philip Quast, a well-known Broadway and West End star, is renowned for his rich and captivating bass baritone voice. Born in New South Wales, Australia in 1957, he lived in a family of 3 siblings on a turkey farm. He graduated from the National Institute of Dramatic Art in Sydney. He later gained recognition for his role as Inspector Javert in the original 1987 Australian production of Les Miserables and Les Miserables, the Dreamcast in Concert in the UK. Quast is the first to win the prestigious Laurence Olivier Award for Best Actor 3 times. The awards are recognized internationally as the highest honor in British theatre. With a career spanning nearly 5 decades, Philip Quast has proven himself to be a true star across musicals, plays, films, and television.
How is that experience from a boy in a farm to, such a respected performer on stage?
For me, it's never been about the performance. I'm always very sad when we leave the rehearsal room. And
so rehearsal to you is very critical.
Oh, it's
important.
everything.
Okay.
That's where the community is. That's the problem solving. It's a bit like a chef. What enjoyment does a chef get out of it?
Preparing the ingredients.
Well, it's pairing and it's working under stress and getting it in a way, and then you put it out. And there's a moment the performance of an actor is, then you've got to eat it. I've never really loved the performance part as much, Yeah. And I got very lonely after the director leaves. And then you have to just do it day after day after day after day. That's when the hard work happens, the discipline.
Okay.
And
that's what you love the most.
I love that creative part.
Right, right.
I just love the problem solving, the building, and for that reason I liked carpentry. I always had a shed where I made my own furniture because I'd like to dream how it all fitted together.
Right.
And that's sort of what acting is, really. It's how you fit together with other people. Once the performance starts, it sort of becomes more difficult.
I see.
But that's where you make them. That's how you make the living.
Right. But do you think what you just shared it's the thing that makes you different from other artists, and also the thing that sustained your career for that long?
Well, I think there are two types of actors.
Okay.
There's an actor that just loves being out there.
Being in the spotlight.
Being in the spotlight.
Yeah.
And there are others sort of a bit like me. I get a bit embarrassed being out there, and I just... Or for instance, an analogy would be like if you were parachuting. There are people who can't wait to get up there, and as they jump out, they go, whee, on the way down.
Right.
I don't. I get up there and I jump in fear. I get to the ground, and when I hit the ground, I go, yes, I got through it.
I see.
But some actors actually, when they hit the ground, they go wee on the way down, and when they get it, they go, oh, it's over. I'm the opposite, and I think there are two types of people like that.
Right. Yeah. Do you have stage fright?
Oh yeah. I got it quite badly once when I was doing Les Miserables.
Yeah. So now I want to go into details of the roles that you play over the years. And you said that you like to play complex characters, characters with troubles.
Yes.
Why?
I played about 7 or 8 parts where people took their own lives.
Okay.
And including Javert in Les Miserables, And to be honest, I found depression was always one of my big challenges in life. And it helped me exorcise that. And I think a lot of those bad characters, those complex characters, I've enjoyed trying to work out why they behave that way and to give them some sort of, not justify it, but to give an insight in so that it can teach the audience how to live a better life.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does. It does make sense to me. I understand what you're saying. And I think what you are doing is really to try to touch the humanity in each characters. And we can always learn something from the good characters, the bad characters. And
we're in a world now, because of social media and stuff, where if someone makes a mistake, the world piles in and judges them because, and I don't think that's good behavior, because in doing that, you make yourself less
angrier.
generous, quite angry, and people make mistakes, and they should be allowed to have a chance to say, I'm sorry. No one says I'm sorry anymore.
True.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So, I mean, playing those complex characters, did you use method acting? And what did you have to pay for?
Well, it was hard for my wife and my kids sometimes because you're never present. The difficulty about working nights in live theatre is from the moment you wake up in the morning, if you're singing, you're checking your voice. Right. You're always going, if you get a cold or something, you live in constant fear of having vocal problems. That's hard.
Right.
And from the moment you wake up in the morning, you're just not quite there for your kids or listening because you're thinking about the part at the end of the day.
Yeah.
The way I cope with that was when I would finish at night, I'd go home. I never went out. I never go out drinking, don't go out with other actors, go home.
Okay.
And go home to my family.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's always the case. Actors often go out, they go drinking or out at night. I'd go home every night.
Yeah, and why? Why do you choose to go home?
because that's where it's safer and it's real. It's, you know, if you're out playing a part at night and out partying, that's not real.
Yeah.
I mean, acting is only pretending after all. And I think the challenge for a lot of actors is if you're doing a film and you're famous, you start to believe your own, you know, a car picks you up and people are doing everything for you. That's not real. And I think that can go to your head if you're not careful.
There, out in the darkness, a fugitive running, fallen from God.
Philip Quast is renowned for his vocal control, emotional depth, and ability to bring complex characters to life. At the age of 30, he auditioned for the original Australian production of Les Miserables. Quast hoped to get a place in the chorus, but got cast in one of the main roles, as a vindictive Inspector Javert instead. His success in the role led him to move from Sydney to play Javert in the London production 2 years later. He's also the only member of this Australian ensemble to feature in the 10th anniversary Dreamcast concert at the Royal Albert Hall, solidifying his status as the definitive Javert in the eyes of many.
It is one of the most beautiful voices you're ever going to hear. And when I'm playing for him, I feel that my piano playing comes alive. His phrasing is so musical, and he's so driven by the text and by character and for the love of what he does.
His beautiful voice and skillful acting continue to help him secure starring roles in more West End musicals, including Sunday in the Park with George, The Fix, and South Pacific. Philip Quast's ability to immerse himself in a variety of characters is a testament to his commitment and talent. The New York Times praised Quast for his portrayal of Judge Turpin in Sweeney Todd, where he intriguingly eased up on the sinister aspects of the character, making the typical villain recognizably human. Similarly, the Sydney Morning Herald noted that Quast almost vanished inside any number of vivid characters by drawing eccentricities, virtues, and weaknesses to the fore, showcasing his great skill in bringing complex roles to life.
How would you describe your style, especially in relation to your portraying of complex character like Javier?
I suppose my style is learning when you can be still. Is allowing that camera to see me thinking.
I see.
As opposed to showing.
Right.
And even when you sing, musicals are very much like film. Because when you watch film, there's a musical score under it. But for instance, I don't think musicals are all about that. In fact, it's the opposite. You allow the audience to come to you. So the music, everything you do in a musical, if you're not careful, music exaggerates it. For instance, I might say, "Don't go there, Lena." And I might do that. And a cello might come in on film and go, but if I go, "Don't go there, Lena," and the cello goes, and I act it, it becomes melodrama. So in fact, musicals, you've got to be more real than, you've got to be like film. Because the music exaggerates movement on stage. See, even opera, sometimes now opera singers might go, you know, "What do you want?" And then the music goes, "Ba, ba, ba, ba," and you'll see the actors go, "What do you want?" No, in fact, it's the opposite. They'll go, "What do you want?" And they goes, "Ba, ba, ba, ba." That ba, 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 actors will often overact because the music exaggerates. But in fact, I think you've got to do the opposite. You've almost got to make, the thought's got to get bigger, but you've got to be physically stronger. Eventually, I just try and make sure that you see people think you think.
The camera gets you between thoughts.
Yeah.
That's the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not the speaking on film and musicals. It's when you're not singing that's the hardest part. Because people sing and they go da da da. Then they get, they might say, I don't know what I want. Maybe but no. The hardest part is what you do after you sing. What do I want? Think. I know. Does that make sense to you?
Yes, I got it now.
But they go, what do I want? No. What do I want? I know,
Yeah.
It's the part when you're not singing that becomes the most important part in musicals.
Yeah. Can you demonstrate to us more examples like that?
You mean you want me to sing something?
Yeah, to sing something.
Okay.
And to show the audience that actually what is the important part. Yeah.
All right. So if I'm singing something like, there's a song I have to sing that I'm doing in the concert, Oh, What a Beautiful Morning. And I might actually sit there and, now normally I could sing it, there's a bright golden haze on the meadow. There's a bright golden haze on the meadow. Nothing's happening. But if I look and go, and then I look and go, there's a bright golden haze on the meadow. There's a bright golden haze on the meadow. See it. The corn is as high as an elephant's eye, and it looks like it's climbing clear up to the sky. Oh, what a beautiful morning. Oh, what a beautiful day. As opposed to going, oh, what a beautiful morning. Oh, what a... You see? I'm seeing those things. I see it. I go, God, look at that. The corn is as high as an elephant's high. New thought. And it looks like it's climbing clear up to the sky. Then he thinks, oh, what? But what we do is when people sing, they just sing without seeing the image.
I see.
Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, they sing, but they're not there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're just singing, listening to themselves.
Yeah.
And I can do it quiet too. I can go, there's a bright golden haze on the meadow. There's a bright golden haze on the meadow. See the corn. The corn is as high as an elephant's eye, and it looks like it's climbing clear up to the sky. New thought. Oh, what a beautiful morning. You see, I'm just seeing it, as opposed to just playing emotion.
Right.
It's been a very moving night, and
Philip Quast not only shares his skills with young Vietnamese students in the classroom, but also seeks to inspire them through his life story. From a boy living on a turkey farm with no exposure to the arts, he rose to become a world-renowned artist. The story is told in his live concert, The Road I Took.
Before Lord God made the sea and the land, he held all the stars in the palm of his hand, and they ran through his fingers like grains of sand, and one little star fell alone. Now a man don't mind if the stars grow dim, and the clouds blow over and darken him, so long as the Lord God's watching over him, keeping track how it all goes on. And sometimes I think maybe God's gone away, forgetting a promise that we heard him say. And we're lost out here in the stars, little stars.
What I noticed last night about the audience is it was a very quiet audience and attentive to everything and responsive. And I haven't seen that a lot. But Phil has a unique ability to make them present. I think it's his authenticity. When he's performing, you can't tune out.
you are teaching many Vietnamese young talents. What advice do you usually give them to help them deal with contemporary challenges?
The same as advice I give people in England and in Australia. The advice is to read, but learn to read for long periods of concentrated time. And it's very difficult now to get someone to sit there and read for 2 hours without having your mobile phone on.
Yeah.
Because the biggest challenge we all face is that it's hard work being in a rehearsal room. And if you work for 2 hours and then go straight out to your mobile phone, I've done a lot of experiments, everything you've learned in the last 2 hours will go. You need to actually work, go out of the rehearsal room, make notes, because you will forget it.
Right.
When you're learning in the rehearsal room, your brain is building up synapses, and they take time. When I looked up a word, I'd have to go to the dictionary and go, so it's kinesthetic. And I go A, B, C, D, E, and then I get down and go, and get the word and go A, B, C, D, E. And then you find it and go, and then you remember the word because you see it placed between two other words. And our vocabulary has got really small now, and yet language has got bigger. English has got bigger. So, but now, if I want to get a word, I just go A, B, and it's done for me.
Yeah.
And what we've discovered is that in Elizabethan times, in Shakespeare's time, the average Elizabethan, we think from letters and writing, had about 5,500 words, and they were bilingual because they spoke French as well. But now we're down to about, our average working vocabulary is down to about 2,500 in Australia, and yet a language has gone from having 65,000 words to 1.9 million.
Wow.
But the words have got smaller.
I see.
Because looking for the very specific word is the very important thing.
Yeah.
I say words now in class and people go, I don't know what that means. And I'm thinking, but that's a simple word.
Yeah.
You know, if I might say something like variegated.
I don't know what that
Well,
means.
but that's okay. But when I was a young person, variegated was common. And even the etymology of it varied. So if something's variegated, it's multicolored. You know,
okay.
you know, a leaf can be variegated. It can be blue and green, and that in itself, I might say that. I mean, your vocabulary is amazing, but to me, that should be a word that you know, because a director might want to say, look, I think the character is more variegated. And then I can go,
Yeah.
because what they're saying is that a leaf has all these different colours, red and yellow, and that's variegated.
Right, right.
And then I go, I can picture it. But now they say, I think the character's just more angry.
Okay.
And that's not the same.
I
There's actually
understand.
picking a word which helps with a clue.
Right, right.
I'm just talking
The right
too
word
much.
is like a key to unlock so many things. Yeah, yeah.
And that's what I feel about as the language has got less and less specific, because we're becoming more solipsistic is the word.
Yeah.
Selfish.
Right, right.
Not narcissistic, although that's funny, you know.
Yeah.
Taking your photo and going, oh, I don't like that.
I
That's
know
all
what that
about
is.
me. Whereas acting is all about you. It's not about me.
Yeah.
Because I use language to hide myself, or to deflect, or to inquire, to admire. It's not me. And I think our consumerism with that is making us all internal. So it's getting, and also when you put the mobile phone down now,
Right.
what do you do with your hands? It's like suddenly I haven't got a cigarette in my hand.
Exactly.
And then an actor gets on stage and they don't know what to do with their hands.
I see. Yeah.
because they haven't got the phone.
Right.
You say, okay, or I get up and do your scene, and they put the phone down and they go, what do I do with my hands? So they don't know what to do.
Right. Right. Wow. It's really thought-provoking, mind-blowing, this conversation I had with you. I've learned a lot.
Oh.
Very, very interesting, and it opened my eyes to so many new things.
During his visit to Vietnam last year, Minh Anh was one of the fortunate young talents directly mentored by Philip Quast. She plays the lead role of Fiona in the 2024 national tour of the classic musical Shrek in Vietnam. Quast spent 2 weeks in Hanoi, offering guidance to young, passionate musical theater enthusiasts.
Cái kỹ năng mà mình được học và mình cảm thấy là mình có thể ứng dụng cho tất cả những cái mà mình muốn, như là sáng tác này, hoặc là xử lý tư duy một bài hát, đó chính là phân tích nhân vật ở trong cái bài hát đấy, hoặc là nếu như mà cái bài hát đấy mà nó không có nhân vật thì hoàn toàn là mình có thể viết ra một nhân vật tương ứng với cái bài hát đấy để có thể diễn. Thì bác đã phân tích cho tôi rất là nhiều, và cũng như là cũng chỉ cho tôi những cái dấu chấm dấu phẩy ở trong từng câu một, là nó có cái ý gì hoặc là nó biến chuyển cảm xúc ra sao.
Năm ngoái mình có được may mắn tham gia một cái chạy hè tên là Broadway Bootcamp của The Universe, thì mình có cơ hội được làm việc với bác Philip 2 tuần. Bác dạy rất là tận tình và bác thuộc tên từng bạn học sinh. Bác biết được điểm mạnh điểm yếu của mỗi người và bác chỉ từng chi tiết một là làm như thế nào để nó tốt hơn.
This year, Philip Quast was invited to return to Vietnam for International Art Week, hosted by Universe, a passionate organization dedicated to the development of musical theater in Vietnam. Throughout the week, Philip Quast mentored nearly 200 young people from various art clubs in high schools and universities. As a musical theater legend and a faculty member of the prestigious National Institute of Dramatic Art in Australia, he not only shared his skills and experience, but also provided guidance on how to think like true artists, focusing on the development of deaf for the younger generation in Vietnam.
Bác đã giúp mình biết cách tập trung để nhìn vào khán giả, để có thể truyền tải được cái năng lượng của bài hát mình một cách trực tiếp tới mọi người và có thể khiến mọi người hiểu rõ được những thứ mà mình đang muốn mọi người hiểu là gì.
Bác không nói quá nhiều về việc là bạn phải làm thế này, bạn nên làm thế này, mà bác vô cùng tận tình đến mức là tôi thấy bạn thể hiện rất hay, nhưng tôi nghĩ nếu mà thêm một chút tiểu tiết về vấn đề này thì tôi nghĩ bạn sẽ còn tỏa sáng hơn nữa. Sau khi gặp bác Philip thì bọn mình cảm thấy là bọn mình đã tự tin hơn này, đã có thêm một chút kỹ năng về thể hiện bài hát, về thể hiện cảm xúc, về cách kể chuyện, về cách đứng trên sân khấu như thế nào, đọc lời thoại như thế nào, cách thể hiện cảm xúc của nhân vật ra sao. Tất cả mọi thứ nho nhỏ, những cái thứ rất là tiểu tiết như là từng dấu chấm dấu phẩy, từng cách tông giọng các thứ thì đều được bác truyền đạt một cách vô cùng tỉ mỉ và tận tình.
The insights from the legendary artist Philip Quast have truly inspired the younger generation, providing knowledge, experience, and passion to pursue the arts.
You have been doing this for 50 years.
Yeah, 50 years.
The love for musicals, for theater, for acting, for performing, I think would never stop inside you. So what do you want to do to help the younger generations to kind of inherit and also be on the path that you've been on for 50 years?
I think the teaching is also not just about the young people. I think it's also putting the parents at ease, to take away the fear of the parents that their kids aspire to be actors, because when we've done stuff here before, when the parents have seen the change in the children, in their confidence, I think the arts are so important. It's not something separate from life. And the excitement for me was to hear back from parents when they see their children happy, they see their children learning a skill. I don't think it's about necessarily making a career. I think that will happen at the same time, you know, building the musical industry. But I think I think my education, as much as seeing that the more parents can see me teach and do things, and that you can see change and see the children and the younger people become enthusiastic about working hard, that they can grow. They learn to be disciplined, they learn to be linguists, they learn to be physically fit, they start to dance, they learn to have friends.
Right.
And they're leaving their mobile phones and their social media alone
That's a good point.
for a while. And when
Yeah.
parents see, wow, I think parents are really happy to see the kids doing things without sitting in their room doing that.
Yeah.
And to see that, I think it's wonderful. And I've seen it happen, see the parents become really happy that their kids are actually up and doing something, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
So I think it's as much about the parents as the kids too.
What about a future plan with Vietnam?
Oh, well,
you know,
look, I
teaching
hope to
or
come back to
performing?
Vietnam lots more. What I see now and what I find really hopeful in Vietnam is trying to find a way of how Vietnam moves ahead in a Western way, and yet still trying to hang on to their musical instruments and getting their old stories and songs and everything. Now, why I'm interested in teaching in Vietnam is because I think there's a whole possibility here of doing musicals using Vietnamese instruments, Vietnamese language, Vietnamese stories with the skills of the Western musical, which involves microphones and lights and everything, not just for you to do cats and do shows, but to integrate those skills. I'd love it where Western people, tourists, come and saw a Vietnamese musical in Vietnamese, involving Vietnamese stories. You know, I think that's definitely on the cards. I see that as a very exciting thing.
Not only Philip Quast, but also two other leading Australian musical theatre artists, Anne-Marie MacDonald and Nicholas Gentile, directly mentored young Vietnamese students. They shared inspiration and skills in the field of musical theatre. These mentoring sessions took place throughout the week as part of the educational art project Culture in You.
When we're doing these workshops with Nicholas and Philip, you can see, like, straight away they go from being small, shy, to much more confident, much bigger. So, and that's just in like 10 minutes. So I think the potential is huge, actually. Even for experienced performers like myself and Philip and Nick, it's scary to get up on the stage because you think, will I make a mistake? So I think for these young students to perform for us in a small room and be open to development and ideas is very courageous of them.
The Vietnamese students that we've seen today and actually all throughout this week have just been absolutely incredible and have embodied so much talent and potential, which has just been so wonderful to see. And personally, they're an absolute joy to work with.
Australian experts are supporting the Interstellar Music Society community in creating a musical based on Vietnamese mythology. They are involved in providing feedback across various stages, from idea development, staging, writing lyrics, and composing music, to acting and production.
Đúng là nhạc kịch Broadway nó xuất phát từ phương Tây, nhưng mà người Việt Nam của mình thì mình thể hiện nó, mình áp dụng nó theo một cách hoàn toàn khác. Mình có thể đưa ngôn ngữ của mình này, nón lá. Các bác chuyên gia có nói với bọn mình là văn hóa của Việt Nam là văn hóa vô cùng nổi bật và vô cùng đặc sắc. Khuyến khích bọn mình là nên thể hiện điều đó mạnh mẽ và nổi bật hơn nữa để cho ai cũng biết tới văn hóa và con người của Việt Nam.
Because I've come to love Vietnam so much over the last 3 years, being here so frequently, learning about this wonderful culture, I'm really passionate about seeing this culture represented on the music theatre stage, not just in Vietnam, but globally. And so that will happen as a result of what we're doing by building a community of young Vietnamese theatre makers who will start making their own Vietnamese musicals, and by which we will start to see that throughout the world.
So now if you have one thing to tell the Vietnamese audience or Vietnamese young talents who loves musical and who want to, try, what would you say to them?
I'd sort of say believe in yourself. Don't be judgmental about human behavior. And that means don't comment when someone says something. Because being negative and making judgments about other people is not conducive to growth and generosity. I still believe the more you give, the more you receive. That's as simple as that. Just stay away from negativity because it stunts your growth as a human being.
And I think you have given a lot.
Thank you.
So, thank you so much.
Thank you, Lena. It's been a pleasure.
Your insights and your sharing. From his powerful performances as Javert in Les Miserables to his inspiring workshops here in Vietnam, Philip Quast has shown us the profound impact of artistry and the importance of connecting with audiences across cultures. We hope you've enjoyed this conversation and gained inspiration from Philip's journey. Until next time, keep celebrating the arts and the stories that connect us all. Goodbye for now.